Yo, what's up, y'all? Let me take a sip of this coffee real quick. All right. I was watching I seen a video that popped up on my timeline. It was this YouTuber, has a ton of subscribers, gets a ton of views, and kind of like deems himself as a chosen one. And I don't have a problem with that. Um, and it's not for me to say who's a chosen one, who's not. But I just think it's like a lot of people, you have this guy, he wears a hoodie all the time. He's um, kind of like, uh, you could tell he's a bit MAGA. And this ain't about politics. This is a spiritual channel, more so. But it's just like, if you're going to say you're a chosen one, you know, then to me it's kind of silly to be in, but you're in 3D consciousness. Like, it's like you're obsessed with, he's obsessed with a lot of the gender wars, and and most of his content is about women don't do this, and stuff like, you know how the whole, gender wars gets. It's men discussing why women ain't shit, basically, and women discussing why men ain't shit. And if all your content is about like that, then I can't see you as a chosen one. Because you're just feeding the division, right? Like, even if you make some good points, you're just feeding into the division, and you're just feeding your viewers low frequency content. And from his perspective, I get it, right? It's the same thing the news does. It feeds people low frequency content, because it makes them bigger. So from his perspective, I get it. He's getting views, he's getting subscribers. But at the same time, it's like you're on the dark side. Like, you're feeding your viewers content that's just going to keep them in a low frequency place, keep them aggravated, keep them frustrated, keep them in these low frequency states. And then they're going to manifest, they're going to create, because we create with our frequency, they're going to create more of things they don't like. They're going to attract more of the women they don't like, because that's what they're giving their energy to. Same thing about women that are in that polarization, polarized place, obsessed with talking about all the things that men do that they don't like, and they're putting all their focus on that. They're going to just attract more of that. Real people on the spiritual path are more focused about themselves, right? That's the difference between a lot of the I don't want to say fake spirituality, but just certain people on a place in their journey where they're still in the 3D. They're still in the division. They're still in their ego. You know what I mean? And that's part of the journey. That's fine. But I just think it's important for people to know the difference, right? Like, real people that are on the spiritual journey aren't obsessed with all the things women are doing wrong, or, all the things men are doing wrong. The real men that are on the spiritual journey are focused on themselves. They're not in that victim consciousness, right? where it's like all these American women. It's like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there aren't issues. Like, I get it. I can see it all. I can see the things that are, that are out of alignment with women, in men. So it's like, I get it. I can see the darkness in women. I can see the darkness in men. But when you're focused on that, you're taking your attention and you're putting it into things outside of you, first of all, and you're feeding your energy, because your attention is your energy, and you're feeding your attention on a bunch of shit that you don't like. And then you're just going to create more of that, right? That's why you see the polarization get bigger, because everybody's putting their attention on everything that they hate. You know what I mean? And so, opposed to putting their attention on things that they like, right? And it keeps you stuck in a low frequency, third dimensional consciousness. And then you don't even have a good understanding of what you're talking about when you're seeing things too much from the ego. When you're seeing things when you're seeing things too much from your male ego or your female ego or your whatever your political ego, when you're seeing things from that perspective, usually it distorts things. So that's the importance, I think, of stepping outside of your traumatized, fragmented ego, so you can get a more clear perspective, a more nuanced perspective. But when you're speaking out of pain and hurt, which that's what a lot of these people that are polarized and obsessed with what women are doing, or obsessed with what men are doing, they're speaking from their traumatized, fragmented ego. And so they see things from a distorted place, opposed to see things from like a higher perspective. If you're going to deem yourself a chosen one, especially, then I think you should see things from a higher state of consciousness and not be feeding into that, like, that low frequency consciousness, because you're feeding your YouTubers poison. And like, I get it for him, but that's where he's at. That's where he's at. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think people need to beware of that. Beware of that. People that are in that divisive consciousness, that are people that are obsessed with things going outside of them, even if it's like about the Illuminati and the whatever. It's like, no, the real spiritual path is about taking responsibility and taking care of this and seeing things from a unity consciousness. People that are obsessed with the 3D, they're in 3D consciousness. They're not seeing things from like, a higher perspective. And so like, yeah, and it's just sad, but I get that, you know what I mean? And I get it. Like, he's siphoning their negative, like, he knows his viewers are aggravated and hurt and traumatized and mad. And so he's feeding off their negative energy for views and subscribers. And I get it, because it works. It works for people, and so, he's got a lot of subscribers. I can't really, but is it good? Right. And that's the thing. That's the difficult challenge of, I think, of making content is, and having some like dignity, because it's like, you want the money, your ego wants the money, your ego wants the viewers, your ego wants, you know what I mean, a lot of those things. But I pride myself on doing my best to make content that's actually good for people and gives people the truth, instead of just pandering to them, for views, and feeding them poison, like a lot of these channels are. you know. So yeah, you got to be wary of that. People too obsessed with things outside of them. You know, you're not a victim. You're a creator. You know what I mean? So feed your energy to people that feed your energy to things that you prefer and not what you don't prefer. Right? Like I get it. You want to be aware of things, and then also try to like understand things from a higher perspective and not your traumatized fragmented ego, because I think that's the trap, because then that makes you resentful when you see things from the ego. It just gets you resentful and angry and hateful, you know. These men be doing this and that and you know what I mean, and it's like, and a lot of times you're attracting that because of your trauma, and that's the and that's and then you think all women are like this, all men are like this, when it's like kind of like you're attracting that because you need to focus on yourself, right? And that's the trap. We our ego kind of tells us like we got it together, but it's the other people that don't, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, like work on yourself, like, you know, focus on yourself, focus on, am I moving correctly? Am I moving, you know, because once you start to do that, you'll start to attract better people towards you. So go on, if you're on the real spiritual path, go on the journey of worrying about yourself, right? Am I as courageous as I can be, right? Am I as loving as I can be? Am I as strong and powerful as I can be? Right? What's my frequency? Is it aggravated all the time? Or is it calm? Is it at peace? Right? Am I angry all the time? Or am I calm? Am I depressed, or am I in work on making your energy, your frequency right? Because I guarantee a lot of the people that watch that content are aggravated all the time, angry all the time, depressed all the time, because that's what he feeds them. He feeds them that stuff that aggravates and focuses on something outside of them, and instead of focusing on yourself. Because I could see this guy, and although he has a bunch of subscribers, I could see how spiritually unevolved he is and how ignorant he is, right? Because you know, and I get his content, you know what I mean? I can see his perspective. Like it's not like I don't understand. Like I get it. You know, I get people's gripes, but it's like, bro, you need to like grow. And that's the problem with being obsessed with what the other gender is doing. You're not growing because you're too obsessed with what the other person is doing, or what the Illuminati's doing, or what the president is doing, or what fucking the other, you know, they got their problems and they need to focus on themselves. You know what I'm saying? You focus on you. If you're going to put yourself as the, you know what I mean? Like, is that, then you should be focusing on yourself. Right. So I think people need to be aware of the false, you know, or people that just aren't developed in their spiritual journey, right? And that are still in 3D consciousness, you know, because you want to be in unity consciousness. You want to work to be, you know, in Christ consciousness, right? Because if you're in Christ consciousness, you're not just shitting on the opposite sex, gender. You can see things from their perspective more. You can understand. You'll be able to understand things more, and you'll be able to come through things with like compassion and understanding and wisdom. But when you come from the ego, you know what I'm saying? It's like when you come from that male ego or you come from that female ego, you know, it's like you're the victim, and you know what I mean? And you're angry because they won't get their shit together. And it's like, no, you get your shit together. You know, if you know, a lot of these guys too, they talk about how masculine they are. And it's like, bro, you're, and how detached. It's like, you're not detached, you're attached. If you're that obsessed with what the opposite sex is doing, you're attached and you're not in your masculinity. You know what I mean? You're hurt. And I get it. Focus on healing. Focus on growing. You're not, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, they're super serious and that. And I get that. And it's like acting like they're just like so super masculine. And it's like, no, you're hurt. And I'm not saying that from like, you know, like some people like, oh, you hurt, bro. You know, no, bro. Like you're hurt. And I'm sorry. I know. I get it. I was hurt. Let it go. Grow. Grow spiritually. Drop that shit. You're just feeding people poison. Right? Like drop that ego. Drop that bullshit. Drop that fake bullshit. You know. And so yeah, I mean, I just think this is a conversation that needs to be had. We all have to jump out of that victim consciousness. We have to genuinely try to see things from other people's perspective, right? And it's hard to do that if we're hurt. If we're traumatized, it's hard to do that. And that's why you see it's, you know what I mean? If we're too much in our egos and we need to be right about everything, then it's going to be hard to listen to each other. And we need to stop feeding channels that are just causing more polarization. Like stop and see things from somebody else's perspectives. Don't be afraid to grow. Don't be afraid to heal. Right? Like you can be fearless, you can be as strong, you can be all that shit without being an asshole. Right? I think people think like, I think a lot of dudes think like they have to be like an asshole. And it's like, no, it's like you just have to, a lot of people are just like, it's like when they're nice, they're not brave. You need all the traits. You can't just be nice and be like scared to death. You know what I mean? Like you want to be authentic, bro. You want to be fearless. You want to be compassionate. You want to be empathetic. That's the ability to see things from other people's perspective, right? And so those are high frequency traits. And so it's not enough just to have one or two. You need them if you want to be able to have them all, right? Because people stuck in you. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really care. Like, people can do and be how they want. Like, I really don't care. You know what I mean? Like, but you're just going to get what you always have gotten, right? Like, if you're just stay polarized, you know what I mean? If you want to stay polarized, if you want to stay in that like polarized consciousness, then you're just going to keep getting what you've always gotten. You know, that's the thing. You know what I mean? Because I don't really care, because I can see things from the dark perspective. I can see things from the other. I'm not, you know, the love and light type person. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so it don't matter. But a lot of this, I see certain stuff on YouTube. It's people feeding people poison, you know, And I guess that you know, but people want that, you know, if people are in that divisive consciousness, they want, you know, divisive YouTuber, right? So we attract what state of consciousness we're at, you know. That's what I believe. All right. I know this is like a lot of my last videos are just kind of like all over the place, you know, but that's where I'm at right now. Hope y'all, hope y'all like it. All right. Peace out.